Have you ever wondered what it would be like to step into someone else's shoes? To live their life, face their battles, fight their wars? Today, I'm going to tell you a story about two sisters who did exactly that. Twin sisters, identical in every way, except for the path life forced them down. One wore designer suits in a corner office. The other wore an apron in a small-town diner. But when fate brought them back together, they made a choice that would change everything. A choice that would expose lies, shatter reputations, and prove that revenge is a dish best served by someone no one sees coming. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about identity, about justice, about two women who refused to let a corrupt system break them. It's about the price of ambition, the cost of silence, and what happens when someone finally decides to fight back. By the end of this story, you'll understand why sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one nobody's paying attention to. Stick around, because this story has more twists than you can imagine. Emma hadn't seen her twin sister in 15 years. 15 long years since their parents' divorce tore them apart like a piece of paper ripped down the middle. She got stuck with their father in a small town in Ohio, working double shifts at a diner just to make ends meet. Her sister, Olivia, went with their mother to New York City, got the best education money could buy, and climbed the corporate ladder at one of the biggest marketing firms in the country. Emma didn't resent her sister. Not really. They were both just kids when it happened. They didn't get to choose. But life had been hard. Real hard. While Olivia was networking at cocktail parties, Emma was scraping by, taking care of their father as his health declined, watching her dreams slip further and further away. She wanted to go to college once. Wanted to study business, maybe even move to a big city herself. But when your father gets diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's and you're the only one around to help, dreams become luxuries you can't afford. The diner where Emma worked was called Rosie's. It was one of those classic American diners with red vinyl booths and a jukebox that only played songs from the 1950s. Emma knew every regular by name. She knew how they liked their coffee, what they ordered on bad days versus good days, which ones tipped well and which ones didn't. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. And after her father passed, it was all she had left. Then one day, out of nowhere, Olivia showed up at the diner. Emma almost dropped the coffee pot when she saw her. It was like looking in a mirror, but a mirror from another dimension. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same small scar above the left eyebrow from when they fell off their bikes as kids. But Olivia looked polished, put together, expensive. Her coat probably cost more than Emma made in a month. Emma looked tired. She felt tired. Tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. They sat in a corner booth for hours. The lunch rush came and went. Emma's boss, Rosie, a woman in her 60s with a heart of gold, told her to take all the time she needed. Olivia cried. She told Emma everything. How she'd been working at Hartman and Associates for 7 years. How she'd started as a junior account manager and worked her way up to senior strategist. How she poured her heart and soul into that company, sacrificing relationships, health, sleep, everything, all for the promise of success. Olivia described how she developed a revolutionary marketing campaign for a major automotive client. It was brilliant, innovative, the kind of work that wins awards and defines careers. She spent 8 months on it. 8 months of research, testing, revisions, late nights, and early mornings. She presented it to her boss, Richard Hartman, in a private meeting. He loved it. Told her it was exactly what the company needed. Told her she was going places. 2 weeks later, Richard presented the campaign to the client. But he presented it as his own idea. Olivia's name wasn't mentioned once. When she confronted him privately, he brushed her off. Said she was being dramatic. Said that's how the industry works. Ideas belong to the company, not individuals. But Olivia knew better. She'd seen the way he changed small details, just enough to claim ownership. She'd heard him describe the creative process as if he'd lived it himself. So she went to HR. She filed a formal complaint. She had evidence. Emails, drafts with timestamps, notes from meetings. She thought the system would protect her. She thought the truth mattered. She was wrong. Richard didn't just deny her claims. He went on the offensive. He told HR that Olivia was unstable, that she'd been underperforming for months, that she was trying to take credit for a collaborative effort. He had allies in the company, people who owed him favors, people who were afraid of him. And within a week, Olivia was fired. Not for poor performance. Not for misconduct. For cultural misalignment. Corporate speak for you're a problem we need to eliminate. But it got worse. Richard didn't just fire her. He blacklisted her. He called his contacts at other firms. He spread rumors. He made sure that every time Olivia applied for a job, her name came with a warning label. Difficult. Untrustworthy. Litigious. Olivia had spent 3 months trying to find another position. She'd sent out over 200 applications. She'd gotten 3 interviews. 0 offers. Her savings were running out. Her apartment lease was ending. And she had nowhere to go. Emma listened to all of this, and something inside her shifted. She spent her whole life feeling like the unlucky twin, the one who got left behind. But now, looking at her sister's broken expression, she realized they'd both been fighting their own battles. They'd both been victims of systems that didn't care about them. Olivia had been chewed up by corporate greed. Emma had been trapped by circumstance. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop being victims. That's when Emma said the words that would change everything. What if we switched places? Olivia looked at her like she'd lost her mind. What? Think about it, Emma said, leaning forward. We're identical. Same face, same voice, same everything. What if I went to New York and became you? Or became someone new? Someone who could get inside that company and find proof of what Richard did. Emma, that's crazy. That's not how the real world works. Isn't it? Emma challenged. You just told me Richard stole your work and destroyed your career. You think he's going to face consequences through official channels. You already tried that. The system protected him, not you. So maybe it's time to stop playing by their rules. Olivia was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, why would you do this? This isn't your fight. Emma smiled, but it was a sad smile. Maybe I'm tired of watching people like Richard win. Maybe I'm tired of feeling powerless. Or maybe I just want to help my sister. Is that so hard to believe? That night, they talked until dawn. They talked about the risks, the logistics, the moral implications. They talked about what success would look like and what failure would cost. And by the time the sun came up, they made a decision. They were going to do it. They were going to switch places. And they were going to take Richard Hartman down. The next 2 weeks were a crash course in becoming someone else. Olivia moved into Emma's small apartment above the diner. Emma started learning everything she could about corporate culture, marketing terminology, and the specific dynamics of Hartman and Associates. Olivia was a good teacher, but she was also demanding. She had to be. One mistake, one slip, and the whole plan would fall apart. They started with the basics. How to dress. How to walk. How to hold yourself in a room full of people who think they're better than you. Emma had spent years making herself small, invisible, the kind of person who blends into the background. Now she had to learn to take up space. Confidence is everything, Olivia explained one afternoon. They were in Emma's tiny living room, practicing handshakes. In that world, people don't listen to what you say. They listen to how you say it. You can be completely wrong, but if you sound confident, they'll believe you. That's how people like Richard succeed. They're not smarter. They're just better at performing. Emma practiced her handshake. Firm, but not aggressive. Eye contact, but not staring. Smile, but not too much. It was exhausting, all these unspoken rules, all these tiny performances that added up to credibility. They worked on her vocabulary. Corporate America had its own language. Synergy. Bandwidth. Circle back. Leverage. Touch base. Words that sounded important but often meant nothing. Emma had to learn to speak this language fluently, to use it without thinking, to make it sound natural. Olivia pulled up videos of meetings, presentations, networking events. They watched them together, pausing to analyze body language, tone, strategy. Emma learned how to read a room, how to identify the power players, how to navigate conversations without revealing too much. See how she's standing. Olivia pointed at a woman in one video. Slightly angled toward the senior executive, but not fully facing him. She's showing respect without being submissive. And notice how she waits for a pause before speaking. She's not interrupting, but she's also not waiting to be invited. That's the balance you need to find. They created a fake resume for Emma. Sarah Mitchell, they decided to call her. 28 years old, 5 years of experience at smaller marketing firms in Chicago and Boston. Firms that were real but small enough that verifying her employment would be difficult. Olivia had contacts who could provide references if needed. It wasn't foolproof, but it was solid enough to pass initial screening. Emma memorized every detail of Sarah Mitchell's life. Where she went to college. What projects she worked on. Why she was moving to New York. She practiced answering interview questions until the lies felt like truth. Tell me about yourself. What's your greatest weakness? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? She had answers for all of them, answers that sounded genuine because she repeated them so many times they'd become real in her mind. But the hardest part wasn't learning the skills or memorizing the resume. The hardest part was learning to be someone else emotionally. Emma had spent her whole life being invisible, being the person who served others, who listened more than she spoke, who made herself small to make others comfortable. Now she had to be the opposite. She had to be ambitious, assertive, someone who believed she deserved to be in the room. One night, after a particularly frustrating practice session, Emma broke down. I can't do this, she said, tears streaming down her face. I'm not like you. I'm not confident. I'm not smart enough. I'm going to mess this up. Olivia sat down next to her. You think I was born confident? You think I didn't have to learn all of this? Emma, confidence is a performance. It's a skill, just like anything else. And you're already better at this than you think. You've been performing your whole life. You've been pretending to be okay when you weren't. Pretending to be happy when you were exhausted. Pretending everything was fine when Dad was dying. This is just a different kind of performance. Emma wiped her eyes. What if I fail? What if I get caught? Then we fail, Olivia said simply. But at least we tried. At least we fought back. That's more than most people do. They also had to address the physical transformation. Emma and Olivia were identical, but 15 years of different lives had created subtle differences. Emma's hands were rougher from years of manual work. Her posture was slightly hunched from long shifts on her feet. Her skin showed more sun damage. These were small things, but in close quarters, they could give her away. Emma started a skincare routine. She got regular manicures. She practiced standing up straight, shoulders back, chin up. She studied the way Olivia moved, the way she gestured when she talked, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking. She practiced in front of the mirror for hours, adjusting, refining, perfecting. They also studied Richard Hartman. Olivia had kept everything. Performance reviews, emails, meeting notes, even recordings from company events. They analyzed his patterns, his preferences, his weaknesses. Richard was a narcissist, Olivia explained. He needed constant validation. He surrounded himself with people who made him feel important. If Emma wanted to get close to him, she needed to feed that ego without being obvious about it. He likes to feel like a mentor, Olivia said. He likes young, ambitious people who look up to him. But not too ambitious. You can't threaten him. You have to make him think you're talented but ultimately dependent on his guidance. That's the sweet spot. They practiced scenarios. What if Richard asked about her previous work? What if someone recognized her as Olivia? What if she made a mistake in a meeting? They ran through dozens of possibilities, preparing responses, building contingency plans. By the end of the second week, Emma had transformed. When she looked in the mirror, she didn't see the tired diner waitress anymore. She saw Sarah Mitchell. Ambitious, polished, ready to take on the corporate world. She saw a weapon. Sharp, focused, dangerous. The night before Emma left for New York, the sisters sat together one last time. Are you scared? Olivia asked. Terrified, Emma admitted. But also excited. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm doing something that matters. Like I'm not just surviving. I'm fighting. Olivia hugged her. Thank you. For doing this. For believing me. For caring. We're sisters, Emma said. That's what we do. New York City hit Emma like a tidal wave. The noise, the crowds, the speed of everything. She visited once as a kid, but that was a lifetime ago. Now, standing in the middle of Times Square with a suitcase in each hand, she felt completely out of her depth. But she couldn't afford to show it. Sarah Mitchell wouldn't be intimidated by a city. Sarah Mitchell belonged here. Olivia had arranged a sublet for her. A tiny studio apartment in Queens, 40 minutes from Hartman and Associates' office in Midtown Manhattan. It was expensive by Emma's standards, but cheap for New York. The apartment was barely bigger than a closet, but it had a bed, a bathroom, and a window. That was enough. Emma spent her first 2 days in the city just walking around, getting used to the rhythm, the energy, the way people moved. She practiced being Sarah. She went to coffee shops and ordered complicated drinks. She rode the subway during rush hour, learning to navigate the crowds without looking lost. She went to a bookstore and bought books about marketing strategy, reading them in parks and cafes, making herself visible, making herself real. On the third day, she applied to Hartman and Associates. She submitted her resume through their online portal, along with a cover letter that Olivia had helped her craft. It was professional but personal, ambitious but humble, exactly the kind of thing that would catch a recruiter's attention. Then she waited. The call came 2 days later. A woman from HR named Patricia. She sounded friendly but efficient. She asked Emma a few basic questions about her experience, her interest in the company, her availability. Emma answered smoothly, confidently, channeling everything Olivia had taught her. Patricia seemed impressed. She scheduled a formal interview for the following week. Emma spent that week preparing obsessively. She researched the company's recent campaigns, their major clients, their competitors. She practiced her answers, her body language, her performance. She bought a new suit, navy blue, professional but not boring. She got her hair done, her nails done, everything perfect. The day of the interview, Emma woke up at 5 in the morning. She couldn't sleep. Her stomach was in knots. This was it. The moment everything either came together or fell apart. She got dressed slowly, carefully, checking every detail. She practiced her smile in the mirror. Confident, warm, trustworthy. Hartman & Associates' office was on the 32nd floor of a glass tower in Midtown. The lobby was all marble and chrome, designed to intimidate. Emma walked in like she owned the place. "Fake it till you make it," Olivia had said. So that's what she did. The first interview was with Patricia from HR. She was in her 40s, professional, with a warm smile that seemed genuine. She asked standard questions. "Tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work here? What are your strengths?" Emma answered perfectly, hitting every note Olivia had coached her on. Patricia nodded along, taking notes, clearly pleased. The second interview was with the department head, a man named David Chen. He was younger than Emma expected, maybe mid-30s, with an intense energy that filled the room. He asked harder questions. "Tell me about a time you failed. How do you handle conflict? What would you do if a client rejected your idea?" Emma had prepared for this too. She told stories from Sarah Mitchell's fake past, stories that felt real because she'd lived them in her mind so many times. David seemed impressed. "You got a good instinct for this work," he said. "I can tell you've been in the trenches. That matters here. We don't want people who just know theory. We want people who can execute." Emma smiled. "That's exactly what I'm looking for. A place where I can prove myself." Then came the final interview. With Richard Hartman himself. Emma had seen photos of him, watched videos, heard Olivia describe him in detail. But nothing prepared her for meeting him in person. He was exactly as Olivia had described. Mid-40s, expensive suit, perfect teeth, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked at Emma like she was a piece of furniture he was considering buying. Useful, but ultimately replaceable. "Sarah Mitchell," he said, shaking her hand. His grip was firm, almost aggressive. "David speaks highly of you. Says you've got potential." "I appreciate that," Emma said, matching his grip. "I've been following Hartman & Associates for years. The work you do here is exactly the kind of challenge I'm looking for." Richard gestured for her to sit. His office was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Everything about it screamed power. "Tell me," he said, leaning back in his chair. "What do you think makes a great marketer?" Emma had prepared for this question. "Understanding people," she said. "Marketing isn't about selling products. It's about telling stories that resonate. It's about finding what people need, sometimes before they know they need it, and showing them how you can provide it. The best marketers are psychologists, storytellers, and strategists all at once." Richard smiled. It was the first genuine expression she'd seen from him. "That's a good answer. Most people talk about data, analytics, ROI. Those things matter, but you're right. At the end of the day, we're in the business of understanding human behavior." They talked for another 20 minutes. Richard asked about her previous work, her approach to problem solving, her long-term goals. Emma played her part perfectly. Eager, but not desperate. Confident, but not threatening. She laughed at his jokes. She complimented his vision for the company. She made him feel like the smartest person in the room. And it worked. By the end of the interview, Richard was leaning forward, engaged, interested. "I like you, Sarah," he said. "You got something. A hunger. I can work with that. How soon can you start?" Emma's heart raced, but she kept her expression calm. "I can start as soon as you need me." "Good. Patricia will send you the offer letter by end of day. Welcome to Hartman & Associates." They shook hands again. Emma walked out of his office, down the elevator, out of the building. She made it 2 blocks before she had to stop and lean against a wall, her hands shaking. She'd done it. She was in. She called Olivia from a payphone. I got the job. On the other end of the line, Olivia started crying. I knew you could do it. I knew it. This is just the beginning, Emma said. The hard part starts now. Emma's first few weeks at Hartman and Associates were all about observation and survival. She kept her head down, did her work, and watched. She watched how people interacted, who had power and who didn't, where the alliances were and where the fault lines ran. The office culture was exactly as Olivia had described. Competitive, cutthroat, exhausting. People worked 12-hour days as a baseline. Weekends were for catching up. Vacation was theoretically available but practically discouraged. Everyone was always performing, always trying to prove they deserved to be there. Emma was assigned to a team working on a campaign for a financial services client. Her role was junior, mostly research and support, but she threw herself into it. She stayed late, volunteered for extra work, made herself indispensable. She needed to prove her value quickly, to establish herself as someone worth keeping around. Her teammates were a mixed group. There was Jennifer, a woman in her early 30s who'd been at the company for 6 years and was clearly burned out. There was Kyle, a recent college graduate who still had stars in his eyes. And there was Marcus Chen, the IT specialist who kept the company's systems running. Marcus was the one who caught Emma's attention. He was quiet, brilliant, and completely invisible to people like Richard. He ate lunch alone, kept to himself, and seemed to genuinely hate the corporate culture. Emma recognized something in him. A kindness, maybe. Or just a weariness with the game everyone else was playing. She started eating lunch with him. At first, he was suspicious. People like her, the rising stars, didn't usually talk to people like him. But Emma was different. She asked him about his work, his interests, his life outside the office. She treated him like a person, not a tool. And slowly, he opened up. Marcus had been at Hartman and Associates for 3 years. He'd taken the job because it paid well, but he hated it. Hated the politics, the backstabbing, the way people treated each other like commodities. He stayed because he had student loans to pay off and a sick mother who needed help with medical bills. He was trapped, just like Emma had been back in Ohio. Why do you stay? Emma asked him one day. Marcus shrugged. Same reason everyone stays. Fear. Fear of not finding something better. Fear of starting over. Fear of admitting I wasted 3 years of my life in a place I hate. He looked at her. What about you? You just got here. You could still leave. Why stay? Emma chose her words carefully. Because I have something to prove. To myself, mostly. I've spent my whole life feeling like I wasn't good enough. Like I didn't deserve to be in rooms like this. I want to prove that's not true. Marcus nodded. I get that. Just be careful. This place has a way of eating people alive. Emma also started paying attention to Richard. She studied his patterns, his habits, his moods. She learned that he came in late, usually around 10, but stayed until 8 or 9 at night. She learned that he had lunch meetings 3 or 4 times a week, always at expensive restaurants. She learned that he was charming with clients but dismissive with employees. She learned that he took credit for other people's work constantly, casually, like it was the most natural thing in the world. She watched him in meetings. The way he listened to someone's idea, nod along, then rephrase it slightly and present it as his own insight. The way he'd interrupt people, especially women, and talk over them. The way he'd single out individuals for praise or criticism, keeping everyone off balance, never letting anyone feel secure. It was masterful, in a sick way. Richard had built a system where everyone was competing for his approval, where loyalty to him was the only currency that mattered. People didn't collaborate. They hoarded information, sabotaged each other, did whatever it took to get ahead. And Richard encouraged it. He thrived on the chaos. Emma also noticed his assistant, Jessica. She was young, maybe 25, and clearly overwhelmed. She was the one who managed Richard's calendar, handled his emails, dealt with his demands. And Richard treated her terribly. He'd snap at her for minor mistakes, change plans without warning, expect her to be available at all hours. Jessica was drowning, and no one seemed to care. Emma started helping her. Small things at first. Grabbing her coffee when she was swamped. Covering for her when she needed a bathroom break. Listening when she needed to vent. Jessica was grateful, almost pathetically so. It was clear she wasn't used to kindness in this place. "Why are you being so nice to me?" Jessica asked one day. "Because you deserve it," Emma said simply. "And because I know what it's like to feel invisible." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. You have no idea how much that means." Over the next few weeks, Jessica started to trust Emma. She shared little details about Richard's schedule, his moods, his preferences. Nothing major, just casual conversation. But Emma filed it all away, building a mental map of Richard's world. Then one night, after a particularly brutal day, Jessica let something slip. They were in the break room, both exhausted, both ready to go home. Jessica was venting about Richard, about how demanding he was, how nothing was ever good enough. "I swear, the only thing he cares about is that stupid private folder on his computer," Jessica said. "He's obsessed with it. Won't let anyone near it. I tried to organize his files once, and he nearly bit my head off." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Private folder? Yeah. It's password protected, separate from everything else. He's got years of old project files in there. I don't know why he keeps them. It's not like he ever looks at them. But God forbid anyone tries to access it." Emma kept her expression neutral, but inside, her mind was racing. That folder could be the key. If Richard had stolen Olivia's work, there might be evidence in those files. Original drafts, emails, timestamps that proved Olivia had created the campaign. But getting access wouldn't be easy. Richard's computer was password protected, and he never left it unattended. That night, Emma called Olivia. "I think I found something. Richard has a private folder on his computer. Jessica says it's full of old project files. If your work is in there, with the original timestamps and your name on it, that's our proof. How are you going to access it?" Olivia asked. "I don't know yet. But I'll figure it out. I have to." Emma knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed help. Technical help. And there was only one person she trusted enough to ask. Marcus Chan. Approaching Marcus was risky. Emma had only known him for a few weeks. She had no idea if he'd help her or turn her in. But she didn't have a choice. She needed someone with technical skills, someone who could access Richard's computer without leaving a trace. And Marcus was the only person in the company who seemed to have any integrity left. She waited for the right moment. It came 2 weeks later, during a particularly stressful project deadline. The whole team was working late, and tensions were high. Richard had changed the client's requirements at the last minute, forcing everyone to redo work they'd already completed. People were exhausted, frustrated, angry. Emma found Marcus in the server room, working on a network issue. He looked as tired as she felt. "Hey," she said. "Got a minute?" Marcus looked up. "Depends. Is this a work thing or a human thing?" "Human thing." He gestured for her to come in and closed the door behind her. The server room was loud, the hum of machines providing cover for their conversation. "What's up?" Emma took a deep breath. This was it. The moment of truth. "I need to tell you something. And I need you to hear me out before you react." Marcus crossed his arms. "Okay. I don't think Richard Hartman is who he says he is. I think he's been stealing credit for other people's work for years. And I think I can prove it. But I need help." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've been watching you. And I think you're one of the few people here who actually gives a damn about doing the right thing. I think you're tired of watching people like Richard win. And I think, maybe, you'd be willing to help me stop him." "That's a lot of assumptions," Marcus said. "I know. And if I'm wrong, you can go straight to HR and report me. I'll be fired, and that'll be the end of it. But if I'm right, if you do care, then I'm asking for your help." Marcus studied her face. "What kind of help?" "Richard has a private folder on his computer. I think it contains evidence of the work he's stolen. I need to access it. But I can't do that without someone who knows how to bypass security protocols. You're asking me to hack into my boss's computer. I'm asking you to help expose a fraud." Marcus laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "You know what happens to whistleblowers in places like this. They get destroyed. Even if they're right, even if they have proof, the system protects people like Richard. Always has, always will." "Maybe," Emma said. "But what if we could change that? What if we could actually hold him accountable? Why do you care so much? You just got here. You could keep your head down, do your job, move up. Why risk everything?" Emma looked him in the eye. "Because I've spent my whole life watching people like Richard win. I'm tired of it. Aren't you?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. Emma could see him thinking, weighing the risks, the consequences. Finally, he said, "If I help you, and we get caught, we're both done. Not just fired. Blacklisted. Maybe even sued." "I know. And even if we find proof, there's no guarantee anyone will care. Richard has friends in high places. He could spin this, make us look like the bad guys. I know that too. So why are you so sure this is worth it?" Emma hesitated. She'd been careful not to reveal too much, not to mention Olivia. But looking at Marcus now, she realized she needed to give him the truth. Or at least part of it. "Because this isn't theoretical for me. Richard destroyed someone I care about. Someone who trusted the system, who did everything right, and got crushed anyway. I can't bring back what she lost. But maybe I can stop him from doing it to someone else." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay. I'll help you. But we do this my way. Carefully. Methodically. No cowboy stuff. And if at any point I think we're going to get caught, I'm out. Deal. Deal." They shook hands. And just like that, Emma had an ally. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus worked his magic. He explained the technical challenges. Richard's computer was protected by multiple layers of security. Password protection, encryption, network monitoring. Accessing it remotely would trigger alerts. They needed physical access, which meant they needed to be in Richard's office, on his computer, without him knowing. The only time his office is empty is early morning, before he comes in, Marcus said. But even then, there are security cameras. We need to disable them without anyone noticing. Can you do that? Maybe. The security system runs through our network. I could create a loop, make it look like the cameras are recording when they're actually showing old footage. But it would only work for a short window. Maybe 20 minutes, tops. That's enough, Emma said. I just need to copy the files. They planned meticulously. Marcus would create the camera loop from his workstation. Emma would go to Richard's office, access his computer, and copy the private folder onto a secure drive. They'd do it on a Saturday morning, when the office was mostly empty but not suspiciously so. A few people always came in on weekends to catch up on work. The night before, Emma barely slept. She ran through the plan over and over in her mind, looking for flaws, preparing for contingencies. What if Richard's password had changed? What if the files were encrypted? What if someone saw her? Saturday morning came. Emma arrived at the office at 7. Marcus was already there, setting up. He gave her a thumbs up. The camera loop was ready. She had 20 minutes. Emma walked to Richard's office, her heart pounding. The door was locked, but Jessica had mentioned once that Richard kept a spare key in his assistant's desk. Emma found it, hands shaking, and unlocked the door. Richard's office was eerily quiet. Emma sat down at his computer and powered it on. The login screen appeared. She pulled out a small device Marcus had given her, a USB drive with password cracking software. She plugged it in and waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. The software cycled through thousands of combinations. Emma watched the clock. 15 minutes. Come on, come on. Then, finally, the screen unlocked. Emma was in. She navigated to the private folder. It was exactly where Jessica had said it would be. Emma opened it, and her breath caught. There were hundreds of files. Project proposals, campaign drafts, client presentations. All organized by year, going back over a decade. Emma plugged in her secure drive and started copying. The files were large. The transfer was slow. She watched the progress bar creep forward. 60%. 70%. 18 minutes had passed. She had 2 minutes left. 80%. 90%. Emma's hands were sweating. She could hear footsteps in the hallway. Someone was coming. 95%. The footsteps got closer. Emma's heart was in her throat. 100%. The transfer completed. Emma yanked out the drive, closed the folder, and shut down the computer. She stood up just as the door opened. It was Kyle, her teammate. He looked surprised to see her. Sarah. What are you doing in Richard's office? Emma's mind raced. I was looking for the Johnson file. Jessica said Richard might have a copy. But his computer's locked. I should have just emailed him. Kyle nodded, accepting the explanation. Yeah, Richard's weird about his office. I wouldn't be in here if I were you. You're right. I'm leaving now. Emma walked out, forcing herself to move slowly, casually. She made it back to her desk, sat down, and let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She